Welcome back to the Game Plan NFL Week 8. We're talking best bets, we're talking DFS, and we're talking with the number one DFS player in my mind. And on the rankings, what are you, top 10 at this point, John? But you are the number one DFS player, professional sports bettor extraordinaire from the Sharp app, John Statsational. So what's up, my man?
Not much, man. What's going on?
Just killing it. Excited. NBA's getting started as well. So sports galore everywhere we look.
It is. Yeah, we're jam-packed now. This is it. This is prime time from October till till like February.
It doesn't get any better than this. If you're a DFS player, if you're a sports bettor, you've got baseball, you've got basketball, you've got football, you got hockey. What else is there? All the majors happening at once. It is the quadfecta. But today we're going to take a focus on NFL, of course, and we're taking a look at the main slate for NFL Week 8. It is a big week, John. There are no buys this week. We're back to full slates of games, lots of games. Last week was weird. A lot of big underdogs. come through. Good for your bet. John's a big underdog bettor. How'd you do last week?
That was one of the best weeks I've ever had. Between college football and NFL, it was like, I don't know, something like 12-2 or something like that.
It was great. I had people in the in my Discord channel, in the DFS Army Discord, talking about, I followed John's bets. I went 5-1. I was like, man, John's on fire.
The only loss was that Arizona game, which they really could have covered that game too against Seattle. They missed a field goal late to cut it. They were down 7, missed a field goal. He had the laces turned the wrong way, and then tried to adjust them while he was kicking. Otherwise, they cover that game.
The kicker was not happy after.
No, I don't blame him.
Breaking some boxes or something. So yeah, I mean, really good stuff last week, and we'll see if we can keep that going. I just had a hard time actually identifying any NFL plays. I didn't really take many sides last week. My tendency to bet the favorites came back to bother me. I don't like any of these favorites, so I ended up I need to start betting those dogs in those situations where I'm like, I need to go with the other way. I need to take it the other way. So we'll see how that goes for me. But good stuff. Congrats on a smash last week, John. That's awesome.
Thank you.
All right, so let's get into it though. We got another big week. Again, no buys. Some injuries, some stuff, late breaking news, things like that. Not sure when people are watching this, but we just found out that Brock Purdy doesn't look like he is going to play for the 49ers. We get Samwise the Scared at the helm for the 49ers, which did move the line a couple of points already and maybe more. There's a bunch of other backup quarterbacks. There's some weird spots here I think that we could take advantage of. So let's get into it with the first game on this slate, which is the Rams at the Cowboys. With the Cowboys coming in as 6.5-point home favorites in this one. Rams on the road. This game carries what I think is a very high seeming 45.5-point total. I don't know if that's high, but seems a little bit high for a Dallas home game. Usually Dallas is a pretty good defensive team. So let's start with this one. John, Rams coming off. I don't even remember what they did last week.
Rams lost. They lost at home to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, actually a rough loss to Pittsburgh, an unexpected loss. And now they're on the road here, heading out to Dallas, take on a Cowboys team that's 4-2 and plays really good defense at home. Although, every once in a while, they just give up a massive number to their opponent. So how do you see this one going down?
Yeah, I mean, as far as the game goes, don't love it. I agree with you on the total, though. It seems a little high. I mean, I've got the total on my model 41. Which that sort of seems in line. So it's almost scaring me here that they're kind of sucking you in on an under. But I mean, just when you look at these two teams play, everything seems to point towards the under on this game. So I don't know if we're seeing anything on the Sharp report, if you have that up, as far as any sharp money on this game. But as far as me, I mean, my lean would be to the under, and I don't know. I can't get a good feel. I mean, my numbers have this at 3. So where we're looking at right now at the 6.5 does seem a little high, but I can't get a good feel for the Rams. I just feel like the Rams are better than they are, and then they disappoint me. Kind of like them last week. I didn't play that game, but I liked them against Pittsburgh, and that was a real disappointing showing. Kupp was a disappointing showing. I mean, it was not a great game for the Rams.
Puka had the good game instead of Kupp. They did a good job of shutting Cooper Kupp down. I'm looking at the power ranking sheet, your power ranking sheet over at the Sharp app, and the prediction here is not really great in terms of like a lot of fantasy goodness coming from this game, with Dallas projected for under 200 passing yards, which is really low, and the Rams only 215 passing yards. The one spot that stands out for me in this game and stands out the most is Dallas run game. Again, what you're looking at on screen, guys, is the John Statsational Alessia power ranking sheet and effectively prediction metric for what will happen in these NFL games. And in this one here, it's predicting 121 rushing yards for Dallas. And that is the spot that I really like. So I'm into Tony Pollard. In general, I think we might see that Tony Pollard breakout this particular week. I think Dallas pieces are probably more interesting than pieces from the Rams in this game. So, a CeeDee Lamb type player also just fine in a spot like this. It looks like prediction here, you're right, is 3 points for Dallas. So the 6.5 point line seems a bit aggressive. But I also think the Rams are not the kind of team that does very well against a strong pass rush. So, Matt Stafford's very statuesque, and if they could get to him, it could get out of hand. The game could get out of hand a little bit. So we'll keep an eye on that. Do you have a side here?
No, I didn't really care for the game. I mean, I would lean towards the Rams and the under.
Yeah, I see that. All right, let's move on to the next one here. We got the Vikings at the Packers, with the Vikings coming in as, I should have had that open, 1 point road underdogs. A little surprising to see the Vikings as an underdog coming off that big win, but it's another week, and they are coming off an emotional win. Packers are at home. They're 1 point favorites. The game total set at 43. So I'll throw this one over to you. I think I did see some sharp money on the Vikings on the Sharp report, if I'm correct.
Yeah, the Sharps betted at a pick. It's actually different. It depends on the book that you're at. Some books have this at Minnesota getting a point. Some have it at Green Bay getting a point. So
I'll take the point.
What was that?
I'll take the point.
Yeah.
So this is one of those ones where if you want, I guess, let's see here. BetMGM definitely has it, the Vikings getting a point.
Yeah, BetMGM, and then you can BetMGM, yeah, and you're getting that at -115 at plus a point. And if you go to like Draftkings, or I believe Caesars has it as a pick'em, Draftkings has it at Minnesota -1.
Wow.
And FanDuel's got it at Minnesota -1.5. So it's varying. But you're laying only 102 on that -1.5. So it really it differs quite a bit from book to book.
Is there an arbitrage opportunity at this moment?
I'd have to look at the juice on these, but it's probably not a great R, because I mean you're very unlikely for a game to end on 1 or a tie. So, and that's really what you would need to have happen to be profitable. I'd have to look at it, but not hard to figure out.
Not a good. And all right. So, but the Sharps like the Vikings. And how about you? You were a Sharp.
Yeah, I kind of like the Vikings as well in this one. So yeah, that would definitely be my lean on the game. I just don't like Green Bay at all. Now, Minnesota, I think that what you have to be leery is coming off of the game against San Francisco, Monday Night Football. That was a huge win, kind of gets them back into the season, gives them a shot now to play. They lose that game, pretty much their season was done. Now they've got a shot. You come in, this is a big rivalry with Green Bay, of course, neighboring states there, and the Green Bay-Minnesota rivalry is a pretty good one.
Yeah, that is a nasty one.
And but so you don't think they'll be down for this game? I wouldn't expect it. Yeah, so there you go.
Am I sporting Vikings purple for this one, or am I rocking my Green Bay green and yellow?
I like the purple on you. Yeah.
Well, there it is.
Yeah.
That is enough of a reason.
That's it. So the Minnesota, I've been bearish on them. I have the under for their total. So I mean, that game Monday night did hurt my chances on the under. I still like it under 8.5. I still think I have a good shot at hitting that bet, but certainly a loss to San Francisco would have helped. But yeah, I just think they're the better team. Like Green Bay is coming off a miserable game against who they play against Denver last week, and certainly could have won the game. But I mean, you know how bad Denver is. They couldn't win that game. They were a slight favorite in that game. Couldn't win it. I didn't expect them to. That was one of my bets, was Denver. I just don't like this team. I don't like the Green Bay team. I think I think they're below mediocre, quite frankly. And when you look at my model, it likes Minnesota as a 3-point favorite, which I kind of expected as well. Coming into this, I thought they'd be favored. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Minnesota in this one. Not a huge opinion on the total. I think it's about right, that 42 and a half area.
I like the Minnesota side as well. I think that's the bet here. Minnesota's just a better team than the Packers right now. So I'm with you on that. Even on the road, I don't think it matters that much. I don't like that Minnesota's coming off an emotional victory, and a lot of times that like is set up for a letdown. But the Packers just don't look that good. And I'm looking at the power ranking sheet, not just the total projection, which again, guys, this tool is available for all Sharp app users. Make sure you are on the Sharp app, signed up. If you bet on sports, this is an incredible tool for that, amongst so many others that are really incredible. But for me, just on the DFS angle here, Green Bay doesn't project well at all. 199 total passing yards. That's not exciting. 84 rushing yards, completely unexciting in this matchup. So Packers offense just hasn't been very good. On the flip side, the Vikings, I don't think you can fuck with their running backs at this point. They're kind of splitting Cam Akers and Madison up to where they're both getting a lot of touches and no one's delivering any kind of value. So we have to ignore the running backs, and all that's really left are the wide receivers for the Vikings and of course the tight end. And I like that group. I like them all. Give me Addison. Addison broke out last week. Fine. He's still priced low for a guy who doesn't have Justin Jefferson sucking up all the targets on the team. And TJ Hawkinson will be one of the best tight end plays every single week on every single slate. It's just how it is, but even more so without Jefferson. So that's the way I'm looking to go for this particular game from a DFS angle. Neither of the quarterbacks are going to be in play for me this week. All right. We got a bet on the Vikings. I like it. Let's keep it going, John. We got a big slate, 13 games. So we're going to power through these bad boys. Next up, we got the Falcons at the Titans. With the Falcons installed as not enough favorite here, -3 road favorites, taking on a Titans team that will be starting William Levis. And they're not even sure if he's good enough to play a whole game. They got Malik Willis in the background. Whatever it is, it's an ugly situation for Tennessee. Very ugly. They're getting 3. The total here is 36. That might be too high. What do you say, John?
Yeah, I think the total might be a little high. I agree with you. It's 35.5 already over on FanDuel. So kind of depends on which way you want to go. If you like the over, that's the place to go hit it. But yeah, I mean, it's amazing how many of these games we're seeing in the 36 to 38.
You never see this
year.
This is so unusual. I don't know if people are new to following sports betting. I mean, if you've been following my DFS content for years, it's always focused on the totals too. But like, man, these are crazy low. Crazy low.
I mean, my projection has it at 34, which that really is not taking into account the new quarterback. So, I had it as a 2-point favorite for Tennessee without the quarterback in there. So what they're telling you, I mean, is this a 5-point? It's probably not a 5-point move, which means they probably would have had this game closer to a pick 'em. I mean, maybe it is 5 with you just don't know. So you have to make that determination. If you think this quarterback switch is more than a 3 to 5 point edge, then you're going to have to take Atlanta. I kind of feel like that's the side that you're going to want to be. I just don't know how you can bet Tennessee. I think you're either taking Atlanta on this one or you're just passing on the game. But the under, I mean, we saw the sharp money coming on the under 38, and that's knocked this total down to that 35.5 to 36.5 range. Again, on the total, I don't know if there's much in it now. I mean, at 35.5 or 36, it's real tough to take. I don't like the over, but it's pretty tough to take the under. So, I mean, I think if you have to take it, you're looking at Atlanta and the under. But Atlanta, I like that side a little bit more than I like the total at 35.5 or 36.5. Either or. That's a little low for me.
Yeah, tough one. I think you got to take the Atlanta side here. You can't trust Will Levis at QB. The team obviously didn't think he was ready. He wasn't even the backup. He was the third, and now they're rolling him up. Those are sketchy. Those are sketchy things. So it just can't be trusted. I like kind of Will Levis as a raw prospect, and what if he's good? It could happen, but I'm not counting on it. I'd rather count on him being what he should be, which is a raw rookie that can't lead a team, makes a lot of mistakes, turnovers against the Falcons team that just wants to run the football. It's funny because the Titans defense tends to be better versus the run than the pass, but in this type of situation, it doesn't matter that much when a team's offense can't control the football for long periods of time, their defense just gets tired and breaks down over the course of a game. So even if you were good or projected well for most of the year, that was a different dynamic than a game like this where they're bringing in the backup quarterback, and I expect turnovers to happen. So for DFS purposes, the first and foremost thing, and the first button I'm clicking this week, John, is Atlanta defense. I'm clicking them over and over and over again. That is my favorite defense. That is the one you want. They're priced as if it's not a backup quarterback that they're facing, which makes me happy. They're priced as if they're underdogs in a game when they're favored. So that is the spot. The other spot that I'm excited about here is Bijan Robinson coming off the disaster last week where he doesn't play because of the illness. No one wants to play him. Oh, he sucks. Now, I think they like overdo it with Bijan this week to let you know, no, he was just ill. Unless the illness, if there's a Q tag on him, I'm out, fucking gone, because I don't know what this mystery illness was. But beyond that, if it's not a Q tag, I am going to be interested in Bijan for my tournament action. And of course, I mean, if you wanted to kind of play the matchup here, Love is fine too, or not Love. London is fine too, or Pitts or something like that. But I really do think that the Falcons should be able to dominate this game with their defense and the running back, and I like combining that for a correlative effect. So that's how I'm looking at it, and I definitely think the only question I have with the bet here is, should we just go money line?
It's going to depend on what the line is. You could always hit me up in the describe. I told you I've got that spreadsheet where I kind of figure it out. But yeah. I think if I'm not mistaken, like if you have -2.5, I think it's like 144. If you can get better than -144, that's just
it's -150 for -3. So it's right there. It's right there.
Yeah, -150 for -3 is probably not too bad.
Yeah, I kind of like. I don't mind hitting the money line here, and maybe in a parlay with another money line or two that we might figure out.
I looked at the news inside the Sharp app, and Bijan was good to go today, so he should be fine.
Yeah, I think Bijan is. I love the bounce back concept for Bijan. It's going to be tough to click the button in DFS at his price, but he's at a perfect little level, especially on FanDuel. He's at a really cool price point with Pacheco and sort of Hunt and a bunch of these type of guys where you're kind of like, yeah, okay, I like him in this spot. So I like that spot for DFS purposes. All right, let's continue on. We've got a couple bets already. We like the Falcons. We like the Vikings. Nothing on the Rams game. Let's see if we can keep it going here with the Saints at the Colts game. So in this case, the Saints are traveling to Indianapolis to take on the Colts. This is effectively a pick 'em or a -1 for the Colts if you're looking at BetMGM. With a 43.5 point total. The Colts are running out backup QB Gardner Minshew, who had a spectacular game last week, broke the slate. Had somebody actually stacked up Minshew last week, they could have taken down the Millie Maker with that score, except no one did it. So it ended up being, the 37 pointers from Mahomes and Lamar that were at the top of tournaments. But had you played Minshew, you could have won that tournament with the 29 that he put up. What the fuck, right? Of all the plays, Minshew against Cleveland was the least one on my, I played every shitty stack that you could ever think, every garbage QB that fucking sucks. I'll play him. I got it. But that one, I was like, no, not against Cleveland. No. I think
Cleveland gave up 1,000 yards total going into the game. So, I mean, it was like, but he ran 2 in and, it happens. But,
by the way, it was a lot of what you're just saying. It's not like Pittman caught 150 yards and a touchdown either. Downs was 4 targets, just like he broke away. Pittman had 1 breakaway play that made his day. And so it was a bit of a fluky big score. So it was a bit of a fluke. But hey, who cares? $1 million later, who gives a shit how you got there, right? So I was not on it. Mea culpa. But here we got Minshew in a better matchup against the Saints. Saints are a good defensive team. Let's get a look at I'm actually really curious. Been waiting for the power ranking sheet for this one just to get a sense of some predictions here. And yeah, I mean, according to this, the Saints have been pretty good against the pass. Let's see where we have New Orleans. They are, they're 25 yards below mean expectation to opposing pass catchers. Makes a little bit of sense with Marshawn Lattimore having a pretty good year. And it looks like the Saints are a team that you would like to run against. They're slightly below average against the run, which actually plays very nicely into the hands of what the Colts want to do. And one of my other interesting plays, which is Jonathan Taylor. Taylor still in a 50-50 split with Moss, but I just know that Taylor is a better player than Zach Moss. And you would expect that he will start to slowly wrestle the lead role away, and maybe it starts this week. But it seems like running against the Saints is what you should do. I don't mind Pittman or Downs here or Minshew and any of that trio, but I think the running game is a little bit more exciting from a DFS angle. What do you say, John?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like from a betting side, I lean towards Indianapolis in this game. I mean, my model's got it at, I believe, a 4-point differential. I respect the New Orleans defense, not the best defense in the league, but not terrible. But I think Indianapolis has surprised me here. I think they've been a better team. Listen, they were pretty good offensively with Richardson, and that kid was just starting out his career. And now with Minshew, they're better. Long term, obviously, it's a Richardson show, but right now, I think this is a better team with Minshew. Could have won that game. I mean, honestly, it was like special teams and a couple of great defensive plays that won that game for Cleveland last week. Otherwise, the Colts wound up winning that game. So
all defense. Yeah, it was crazy.
It was a lot of points for a great defensive effort from Cleveland. Like it was like you said, it was just a fluky type of game. So the sharp money is actually on the over. I kind of agree with that too. I like the over on this game. That's kind of the side I like the most. If you're betting it, you get, this is the Wong teaser type of play where you get to tease it over the 3 and over the 7. So you would take the dog there and tease New Orleans up. I don't mind that play at all either. I don't think this game's a blowout. I think it stays close. So you can get New Orleans all the way up to 8.5. I like that play on teasers. But yeah, I do like the over. And if I had to lean at the 1.5, I do like the Colts. But I think the over is a little bit more solid this week.
And I actually forgot to mention I only talked about the Colts side of it. I actually like some of the pieces on New Orleans from DFS angles. I think Olave continues to get double-digit targets every week, and the price keeps coming down. I like that. I like volume at a discount. That's my thing. And then, of course, Kamara is basically a DFS cheat code at this point, getting over 10 targets per game. And I like Kamara as well. I'll take that. If he could score a touchdown, that's really going to elevate those 16s and 17s. He's getting into 24s and 25s, which wins you the tournament. So, give me some Kamara as well. And Olave here. Rashid Shaheed is a cheapie also in play for me. So, yeah, and that goes along with your over, I would say, quite a bit. Your over lean. All right. Next up, the Patriots are at Miami taking on the Dolphins, coming in as 9.5-point road underdogs with the game total there set at 46.5. John, you like a plus 9.5. You don't really care who it is, right? The Patriots plus 9.5 here, taking a Dolphins team that's just fire offensively, on fire all season long. Can the Dolphins shut down the Patriots completely and cover this?
I don't know if they shut them down. I kind of like the 9.5. I'm going to be taking the points. This is typically, I've been on New England now. This will be the 3rd week in a row. Definitely a bet I'm going to have. Like them last week. I don't know if I mentioned it here last week, but I did like them on a small little bit on the money line as well. So that came through. I like them here. I mean, Miami's coming off that game on Sunday night. That was a huge matchup against Philly. They come up short. Maybe a few penalties that didn't go their way. Maybe the game goes a little bit differently, but this is a big number. I just think I just continually feel like we're getting value on New England. I know people thought I was crazy last week. They wound up winning the game. They should have covered that game against Vegas. It's just not that I think it's a good team. I just think it's a better team than the market thinks. So in that instance, I feel like you're getting some value. I think this line probably should be closer to 7.5, not the 9.5 or 10. So I think you could really hold out here and wait on this and see if this one gets down to gets back up to 10. Now, sharp money, the sharps did take this when it hit 10. This it briefly was above that, and it's actually come down because the sharps are on it. But we'll see. I think the public will probably be on Miami in this game, in which case if the public can push it back to 10. Now that may be difficult to do, right? Because if we see, one of the advantages of using the sharp report, it's kind of like, if you've ever traded and you know where a good resistance point is and a good support line is, it'll help with your trading. I can buy at support levels and I can sell at resistance levels. That's kind of what you have in the sharp report here, because we've got on the report, it's letting us know that sharps hit it at 10. They hit New England at 10. So maybe the chances of this one getting back up to 10 are slim because they don't want to get whacked by the sharp money again. So that's the whole reason they dropped this down to 9.5, because they know at 9.5, they're not going to have the sharps aren't going to have as big an appetite for this one at 9.5. Every time it goes up to 10, they risk booking more bets on the New England side that they may not want to take that action on. So it's a good having the sharp report. It's good to let you know where the sharps are. Plus, it's good to let you know the probability that this gets back to 10. So, yeah, I mean, I don't mind waiting on it, because if I get 9.5 or it drops down to 9, it's pretty inconsequential. Games don't typically end on a 9. But I think the chances of this getting back to 10 are slim.
Okay, I like it, and I like the side here. Dolphins are going to lean heavy on the run most weeks, and Patriots are pretty good against the run, so they should be able to slow that down. And I don't think the one thing the Patriots might try to do, I don't know if it'll be successful, is they'll probably try to bracket Tyreek Hill and figure out a solution for that. But good luck with that. So as far as DFS angles go, I don't really think Mostert is playable at his salary on either site, FanDuel or DraftKings. They've effectively priced him out of viability, which is fine. I'm kind of happy to not have to make a decision there. And I can just get off of him, which is cool. I mean, he's been the highest score, one of the highest scoring players in DFS like on the year, but doesn't matter. You can't charge 9K or 8.5K for that style of player. The volume's just not there. Patriots, Kendrick Bourne has been doing a little bit, so maybe that. On the Dolphins side, Tyreek, but I don't think I'm going to get a whole lot from this game, even though it's got one of the highest totals on the slate. I just don't think I'm going to find a whole lot of things that are viable. Like Tua is a little too expensive for this matchup. Hill is just unusable at his price point. So outside of something like a Waddle or Mostert, I think effectively the Dolphins players have been priced out of viability in DFS. They don't come anywhere near points per dollar value when you look at their projections. So you might just have to be off of it. What are you going to do? I like your side on the Patriots side, though. But again, I don't mind teasing that up. I love it. If you're going to take it, we found another game where a couple of tease ups, maybe some tease ups.
Yeah,
more points.
Yeah, I don't like tease. I don't like tease. I kind of like. I'd rather play it. I'd rather take this if you like. If you like New England, and take it for like some plus money and come down on it to
take
like
it like plus 150 at like minus 6.5
at like plus 7. I'm saying if I like the New England.
Yeah, I mean like plus 6.5 or plus 7, you probably get like minus. You could probably get plus 150 or plus 170 on that bet.
Yeah, I'd rather go that way. Or if I like Miami and I just thought it was going to be a blowout, like just take it at a 13 or something like that, minus 13.
Okay.
Try to get plus money. But yeah, I don't really like the tease. I don't want to tease this one up at all. I don't like teasing that number. 9.5 up to like 15.5. So this doesn't work for me.
Okay. I like it. All right. So let's move on. We got the Jets at the Giants, home field irrelevant when everybody's playing at the Meadowlands, or whatever they call the Jets Stadium now.
Yeah, MetLife.
Yeah. Meadowlands. It'll always be the Meadowlands.
Well, it's still the Meadowlands, but
yeah. So in this case, we have the Giants coming in as 3-point favorites. 3-point underdogs. The Jets 3-point favorites, which I think is appropriate. The Jets are a much better team. I think that Daniel Jones should be back for this game, which I'm not sure if that's a net positive or not, but he should be back for the Giants in this one. Saquon Barkley, tough spot against the Jets defense that is probably going to shut that kind of player down. And of course, on the Jet side, I have a lot of interest in Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson here, but Breece Hall especially. Jets are favored. You're not going to get a lot of Jets favored games this season. That's going to be a rarity, but that's going to heavily favor the running back position for the Jets. If the Jets are playing from ahead, they're going to lean heavy on the run. We saw it against Denver. I expect that to happen here. So for me, just from a DFS angles perspective, aside from the fact I do like a bet on the Jets, I'm curious which way you're going with it. I do like the Jet side, but I have a little bit of homer bias here. But I love Breece Hall, and I like Garrett Wilson as DFS plays. I don't like anything to do with the Giants here. 36-point total, though, really is not the kind of game where you want to go too crazy with DFS plays.
No, definitely not. I mean, I don't love the game. I would lean on the Jet side as well. I do think it's just going to be a running, grinded out style game. I don't think either team's going to be able to pass the ball all that well in this game. So for that reason, I kind of like the under a little bit more than I like the sides here, even though the total has been bet down a bit. I still think you can get a little bit of value at like the 36.5, 37 number. My projections have it at like 34. I just think it's going to be an ugly type of game. I can't see a whole lot of scoring. And yeah, I would lean towards the under. I like the Jets just a little bit. I still think that, the best unit on the field is going to be that Jet defense. The Giant offensive line, not that good. I think the Jet defense will be able to get a lot of pressure. And so I do think the Giants are going to struggle to score. I think Breece Hall will get something going. He should be able to control this game with on the ground for the Jets. So I think it's just kind of eat the clock up kind of game. Neither team's going to let the quarterback do much, and neither defense is going to allow those quarterbacks to do much either. So I think it's whoever runs the ball better. I have a little bit more confidence in the Jets being able to do that, and so I think it's the Jets and an under.
Yeah, Jets on your power ranking sheet projecting for 137 rushing yards on the ground, and that's what. Yeah, that's right. That's the green stat, right? 153 passing yards gross. Giants passing yards gross. Giants getting some rushing yard love because the quarterback runs as well. But if you kind of like just put that on Barkley at Barkley's salary level, Barkley is an 8K player. No way. Barkley has exceeded 30 fantasy points once in the last 30 games. There's only been one time where it was worth rostering Saquon Barkley over the past multiple seasons at an 8K salary. He's one of the most overpriced, incorrectly priced players in DFS. And so don't play him, right? That's not that hard. But the Breece Hall side, that pops for me at that 137. Now, John, you are the brains behind a lot of the tools at Sharp App. So I wanted to take a moment to talk about the Proptimizer tool at Sharp App and just talk about what this tool is and why people might want to subscribe to Sharp App specifically for this tool. So we talked about the power ranking sheet and, of course, the Sharp report, which is data that exists nowhere else. And if you're a Sharp bettor, you want the Sharp report. But one other tool that I love here is the Proptimizer tool. And I'm going to show you how it works. It's very simple. So I've got NFL loaded up on the Sharp App Proptimizer tool right here. And you can see it's very simple. It's going to show me the greatest edge prop bets of the weekend all in one spot. So right here, we've got Des Ridder, total passing yards. And the Proptimizer is looking at the under 217 yards. Right?
Yeah, we've got a projection of 185.7 or whatever it is there.
That's right. So we're projecting Des to throw for 185.7 yards. The odds makers have him at 217. The edge on this play is 35%. And one of the cool things is if you kind of hit the plus button and look around, you could see every other sports book available, what the odds are and what the props are. In this case, there's no benefit to going to another sports book. BetMGM, DraftKings, for the unders, I guess you would go with either BetMGM or DraftKings because you're getting it at 115, where you'd have to pay $119 on Caesars for the same prop. So very simple. If I'm looking for one of the best bets of the weekend, Des Ridder under 217.5 passing yards, boom, you're done. Here's one. I like the bigger props, but here's another one. Isaiah Pacheco under 15.5 rushing attempts. We're projecting him for 12.5 rushing attempts. So there's some value in that line in the under. One that I really like, and I will be playing this week, is the Bijan Robinson over 48.5 total rushing yards play. I talked earlier in this breakdown about why I like Bijan in this game, in this matchup. Everything points to him getting a little more work. You take the over. We're projecting almost 70 rushing yards. The prop is 48.5. That is a massive edge to the over. So this is a simple tool that you can use to quickly come up with great prop plays. It works for NBA, NFL, any sport you want. If you want to get signed up, our DFS Army YouTube channel watchers, if you're not currently subscribed at Sharp App, you can use promo code DFSA20 to get 20% off your Sharp App subscription exclusively for YouTube, DFS Army YouTube subscribers who are watching this here. The link is in the description below. So make sure you go check out the Sharp App if you want to bet on sports, or you just want a little bit even additional help with your DFS play, your sports betting, or your fantasy football league, whatever it is that you like to do. All right. Let's move on. Next up, John, we've got the Jaguars at the Steelers, with the Jaguars coming in as 2.5-point road favorites, taking on a Steelers team that is 4-2, coming off a big win. The game total set at 42 points here. And John, is this a get-right spot for the Jaguars? Is this a letdown spot for the Steelers? And should we grab this Jaguars minus 2.5 before it moves?
Yeah, I think you have to take Jacksonville in this one. I just have not been a big fan of Pittsburgh, and I think I think it kind of Jacksonville's kind of moving in the right direction. I think I had high expectations for Jacksonville coming into the year. I think they're starting to live up to some of those expectations now. I think Pittsburgh, the record is better than this team is. Give Tomlin credit. Listen, Tomlin, I think, is one of the better coaches in the league, gets the most out of his talent. I don't think he's ever had less than 8 wins, if I'm not mistaken. So,
they're always a winning team.
I mean, they win, right? But the sharp money came in on this one. That's what moved it. It was at -1. That's what moved it up to the 2.5. I think if you can get the 2.5, you're going to want to jump on this on this one now. So I just think you've got the better team here. I don't like the Pittsburgh offense. I was shocked that they won last week. It was basically a home game if you watched it. I don't think it was a Rams fan in the building. And now they're back to being actually at home in Pittsburgh. So we'll see. I mean, I assume the weather's going to be fine. You always kind of worry about that with the Florida teams going north, but we haven't quite gotten to that point in the year yet. I think the weather will probably be okay.
It's beautiful.
There.
It's beautiful in the Northeast. It's a beautiful 70-degree day.
Yeah, I saw the weather was nice in New York, so I'm assuming Pittsburgh won't be too bad this weekend. So barring anything like that, I think Jacksonville wins this game. I'd want to get this before it gets to 3 at your book.
I love it. A lot of bets on the game plan this week, and that's what I like to see. I'll talk a little bit just the DFS angle here. It's really interesting. I'm looking at the power ranking sheet, and the prediction of 144 rushing yards for Jacksonville is really popping in my face, saying, "Hey, Travis Etienne's on this team." I don't normally like a Travis Etienne style player on the road, but he's a yardage and touchdowns kind of guy, and there's a sneaky low floor on a player like Etienne if he's not scoring touchdowns or breaking the 100-yard mark. Not a ton of passing work there, but this does definitely favor playing Etienne. It definitely stands out, and it pops for me that Etienne might be a good spot here. And of course, with Jacksonville, you're always just kind of looking at Kirk and Ridley and those guys. I don't think that I'm going to be on Trevor Lawrence this week, though, John. He is priced again in an area where he's never delivered. Effectively, I can't recall a situation where Trevor Lawrence has ever gotten 30 fantasy points ever in a game, and he's priced at 6,500, which means on DraftKings, which is really like you need to get about 27-ish to make value, and it's just above where he does, and I need 33 from him to be in tournament winning position. And while I know that he could get there because he's a good player, he's just not done that ever. So I kind of think you can effectively not play him and you'll be fine. I don't think he can burn you too hard if you don't play him. All right. Next up, The Eagles at the Commanders. This is a surprisingly low line, John. I'm really curious on your take on this, but the Eagles are 6.5-point road favorites in this matchup with a 43.5-point game total. I have to tell you, when I saw the 6.5, that my first thought was, that seems low. So tell me what's going on, and is there any sort of sharp action here or anything that I need to know about? Is it like a sucker bet? Are they trying to suck us into the Eagles, but really it's a Commanders win, or a Commanders cover situation? What's going on here?
I think it is a sucker line. Yeah, it does look a little low, especially like, they're kind of teasing you in here just under the 7.
Yeah, no, they're asking us. The sportsbook clearly wants you to bet the Eagles, but why? Why?
Well, and they are getting the Eagles bets. So the public is coming in on the Eagles. They are obliging them here. So and yet they are not moving this line to a 7. So that kind of tells me a lot that Washington's live in this game. Washington's probably live on the money line as well. So you're going to want to hold off on this one and try to get the 7 again for similar reasons to what we were talking about before. Now it's different. That game we were talking about before, that was at the 9.5, where the Patriots were getting bet at 10. This we're seeing that the square money's coming in, and it has been at -6.5 because that's where this line has really pretty much been all week. If it gets to 7, I think there's fear that they're going to get hit with some square money from or sharp money on the Washington side. But I think there's a possibility we get there if we get enough. If we get enough of the square action where they don't mind taking some bets at 7 from the sharp. So I would hold off on this one, but wait and see where this line moves. If it starts coming down, if this goes to 6, hit it immediately. And if it gets to 7, hit it immediately. Otherwise, if it sits at 6.5, I would just kind of hold and wait. But I do like Washington quite a bit this week.
See, this is one of those situations. I'm just going to say, I as a person who analyzes the game and looks at the matchups and does all of the shit that I try to do, I'm just like, how the hell how is Washington going to be competitive in this matchup? Like, to me, I think this should be Eagles -10, but it's not. And so I'm just, I don't think I could do it. I don't think I can pull the trigger on Washington no matter what, because their running game's not very good right now. Sam Howell is getting sacked 7, 8, 9 times a game. They got problems over there, but we see it time and time again in these spots where you don't expect anything to go your way, and it like flips, and it's hard to understand. So for me, it's more of I'm going to take it as a warning just not to bet the Eagles. I'm going to use it for that. I'm just going to use it for that.
That's a decision as well. It's like when you're trading, not trading or not betting is just as good, or that maybe not just as good, but it is a decision. You have 3 decisions to make. You can bet on one side, the other, or not bet at all. And not betting at all is a decision. What a lot of people do, we see it, being involved in this business, is everyone wants to bet like every game. Like, you don't have to bet every game. The goal here is to try to win, not have action on every single game. I know we like there's plenty of action to be had. You've got prop bets out there. We've got plenty of bets to be had. If you don't like a game, don't bet the game.
If you want to win more frequently, just bet the props. Yeah. Like, let's be real. Like, when we're prop betting exclusively, when we focus on props, our accounts are getting limited, right? But when we're betting these sides, the sportsbook is like, yeah, dude, how much you want to put on them? 10 grand? Sure. Like, there's no limit to how much action they'll take on a side. But, on props, all of a sudden you can't bet that much. And there's a reason for it, because you could beat the sportsbook on the props a lot more aggressively and frequently than you're going to on these sides. But yeah, for me, it's I can't bet it. But I have a question for you, John. And this is how do I relay this to DFS play? If the line is this close, and if we kind of think, hey, maybe the Commanders can be competitive here, does that mean that then we could get sort of a spike game either from the Commanders' offensive pieces, or a back and forth affair that leads to slightly higher scoring than what we might think? Or, does that bring the Eagles' offense more in play? Because, hey, if the Commanders are making this a game, I think that's where the Eagles' offensive players are going to shine.
Yeah, I mean, I don't read too much into my sports betting with DFS, right? So I just think it becomes too difficult. So sometimes a play like this, I think, is a good play for sports betting, but I don't necessarily want to take them in DFS. So there's not a lot of pieces on the Washington side that I want. And you're like, well, that's contradictory. Well, it's not, because there's a million different scenarios where, Washington wins this game and doesn't necessarily have any great pieces for DFS. You've got so many other games. It's not a showdown slate. And even a showdown, I don't try to create some narrative, because there's a million different ways a game could go. And even if you guess the exact score right, doesn't mean that you're going to have the exact pieces right. So it's more about playing the game theory, seeing what the probability is of each player doing what. So I think the long answer summed up into a short answer is separate the two. My sports betting and my DFS, two different things, just because I like a team. Even in Survivor Pool, which seems to be very highly correlated, which they obviously are, I'll bet against a team that I like in Survivor. I'm taking him in Survivor strictly from a game theory standpoint because I'm getting a high leverage on that team. But I may like the other side. I think where we get caught up in sports betting in all this is like everyone has an opinion on what they think is going to happen. Like that's how everyone bets. And that seems like, well, yes, isn't that how we're supposed to bet? Not really. I bet on teams all just like that Washington game. Like, yeah, I'm not an idiot. Like I watch the games. I know Washington's not as good as Philadelphia. I knew New England wasn't as good as Buffalo either, but guess what? They won the game. Like that's what happens in the NFL, right? So this is why the guys who are like guys who know football, the smart guy, the guys on TV who played and they're coaching, you watch them make picks. They basically go down the line and just pick favorites to win the game. Because it's obvious. Like I know who the best teams are. I know who the favorites are. That's why I hate pools with no point spread. The pools with no point spread, I do worse because I'm like, well,
there's no game theory there. Yeah. It's just, you remove any sort of like mental.
Yeah, it takes all the skill out. My cousin's always, she's in one of those pools. She's like, oh, who do you like in this game? I'm like, let me see who's favorite. Okay, that's the way I like. I mean, that's it. Like, there's no thinking, unless it's a 1 point spread or something like that. You want to take a shot. But anyway, that's the point. Is these are all different games. There's value in different games. In DFS, there may be a different value than there is on the sports betting side and things of that sort. So I kind of separate the two. I don't get too. I'm not looking at it. I mean, you're still talking about a team that's projected to be low to. Again, just because my bet, that's just one bet, right? So I'm making one bet. I could lose that bet. I can win that bet. The market on the whole is going to be pretty accurate. So when you look at their team total for Washington, it's not very good, right? So it's like what 20, 19 or something like that, 18 and a half, whatever it is. It's not that great a team total. So again, don't get too excited about Washington.
Okay. I like it. All right. I don't think I talked about DFS plays from this one, but just coming back to the Eagles game, of course, Hurts and AJ Brown's been spectacular, and DeAndre Swift is great. And on the Commander side, if I needed to go there, I don't like the running backs at all. There's a third guy now that just popped his head up, and now none of them are of any use at all. The only real player that's interesting for me on the Commanders is, of course, Terry McLaurin, with a slight nod to Jahan Dotson, who they've been trying to get the ball to. He got 8 targets last week. He's super cheap. So maybe a little Jahan Dotson, GPP, Millie Maker silliness from that one. All right. Next up, we've got the Texans taking on the 0-6 Panthers. The Texans are coming in as 3-point road favorites with a 43.5 point total. And John, this game has, again, 43 is one of the higher totals on the slate. It's not like a bad game by any stretch from a DFS angles, but the Panthers are 0-6. Can they get a W here against the Texans at home? Is this the spot?
It very well could be. I kind of have mixed signals on my models on this game, so it's going to probably be one of those that I stay away from. But yeah, the public's going to be on Houston. We don't have anything on the Sharp report on that, which is interesting. But that's just my gut is telling me that the public is going to be on the Houston side. We do have on the Sharp report, they let us know where the side that the sportsbook needs. And right now the sportsbook needs Carolina, which means they are getting most of the money on Houston. And we tend to fade that without getting too deep into the Sharp report. We like to fade the sportsbook, just the plays that Anthony posts on there. He posts on there for a reason. Sportsbook on the whole does make money. Obviously, they wouldn't be in business, this particular sportsbook as well. but those plays usually have it's a very sharp book. So the plays that get bet heavily against them, we tend to we tend to want to fade. So that would indicate that we want Houston in this game, and I kind of lean on that side too. But a little nervous about it. They're coming. They were on the bye last week, right? And so we'll see. Coming on the bye, favorite. I've got them rated pretty high on my power rankings. I think I have them 11th overall.
Oh, you have Houston crushing Carolina too, 27-19.
Yeah, no. So that's kind of all that kind of scares me because we know how bad Carolina's been, and I think Houston's been one of the darlings of the league. I mean, one of those teams that people didn't expect, basically because the offense is just clicking at a much higher level than we really ever anticipated with Stroud in there. So yeah, this game scares me. This is a game where they could easily get tripped up and fall, but I would still lean towards the Houston side. Don't love the game either way, and I kind of like the game to the over. I think the over 42.5 is a better play.
Let me ask you a DFS question, because this has been bothering me all week. All right, it's already bothering me. Adam Thielen is now priced up in the full stud zone. He's priced alongside the Chris Olaves and that level of quality player. I think he's at almost 8K on FanDuel this week. I'm looking at DraftKings right now, and yeah, he's above Olave, above Pittman, and just in that zone with Devontae Smith and Brandon Ayuk. So he's at 6,600 on DraftKings. I normally don't like to pay up for wide receivers, who are getting receptions from a rookie quarterback who's probably not that good, but man, it's hard to deny how amazing Adam Thielen has been all season long. He's averaging 22.6 fantasy points per game. That is an unbelievable number. I will be the first to listen. It's funny. I liked Thielen the first couple weeks, and then when the price started to spike, I was like, all right, that's enough. And I got off the bandwagon way too soon. And he has been in the nuts lineup for the Millie Maker like 5 out of 7 weeks. What the hell's going on? So what do you do with that situation for this week? He seems overpriced. He's not going to project that well, but 13 targets most weeks, and he has been tearing it up.
Now, I think that's the thing. It's the usage rate. So they're just using him, the target percentage. He's the guy they're going to. So while they're actually they're above average to the wide receiver, they're scoring above average at the wide receiver position. And what's interesting is they actually are pretty good defensively against wide receivers. I think primarily that is because they've been down in so many games and teams have just kind of run on them. So that's where teams have taken advantage. So it could be a game where you're looking at Houston running backs. But if you do like if you do like the Houston side and you like this game to be high scoring, I think you have to add Thielen into game stacks in this one.
Yeah, I think that would be an interesting way to go. A little CJ Stroud, Nico Collins, Adam Thielen bring back action. One more, I think, important note for this particular game. I don't really like the running game very much for Houston at this point. It's getting weird with Singletary and Pierce and the split and how the work is being split up. I don't like it. But if Miles Sanders is out again, I think Chuba Hubbard is perfectly great to go right back to for another week of, Chuba Hubbard getting all the touches kind of action. He's not the kind of guy that I think is going to get us a 30-point performance. But I think, for kind of stone min for a starting RB, he's the kind of player that'll get you a 20 or a 16 or something in that range on DraftKings with a decent to high floor. So I'll keep an eye on Chuba Hubbard if Miles Sanders is out. That's not going crazy, but keep an eye on it. And I think you're right. I think at some point you have to acknowledge Thielen and just be like, all right, don't be stubborn anymore. Dude's getting 13 targets. He's basically Cooper Kupp on a different team. So just deal with it. All right, here's an interesting one. Browns heading out to Seattle to take on the Seahawks. Seattle's a 3.5-point home favorite in this one. You have the Deshaun Watson situation for the Browns. He's not going to play. It's going to be PJ Dynamite Walker for whatever that's worth. He's not very good, but neither is Deshaun Watson, in fairness. And on the Seattle side, they're going to be facing that very, very tough Browns defense that can win a game even when the offense is pretty shitty. Browns lost Jerome Ford last week, so it should be some combination of Kareem Hunt and Pierre Strong at the running back position for the Browns. How do you see this one going, John?
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting game. I mean, the Browns have been one of the best defenses in football, and then last week they kind of gave up a ton of points there, but the defense also won them that game. So it was quite the interesting game. We talked about it earlier. And then Seattle just been pretty steady. They took care of business last week. That game, I mean, Arizona had their chances, but Seattle pretty much had that game in hand all week. Now the money and the public, they're on Seattle in this game, and I kind of agree with them. And they were able to move this game from 2.5 over the 3 to the 3.5 mark. So I don't love it at 3.5. I hate giving up the hook here. If I can get it at 3, I feel a little bit better about it. But I still think Seattle's the side. I think they win this game, and kind of sucks for me because I'm under on the Seattle win total this year. So I'm gonna have to find some games where they're gonna start losing. But it's one of those. They're just not showing up great on the power rankings, yet their record is a lot better than what their rankings are. So, and this is certainly a winnable game for them. Now, the rankings like Cleveland a lot more because of that, how well that defense is playing. So, now I just looking at it, I think Cleveland's the better team. Obviously, who knows what's going on with the offense, but that Cleveland defense is still nasty. So I would kind of like Cleveland, but just the way this line is moving, that's leaning me on the Seattle side. So if I had to make a bet on this one, I would take Seattle.
I don't think you should bet it. I think it's a difficult one to predict because you have PJ Walker coming. The backup quarterback really throws a wrench into a lot of things, and especially when the starting quarterback also wasn't that good, and I think it throws a wrench into a lot of things, John. For me, right? Because do I want to take Seattle? Probably not. Look at the horrible metrics that Seattle's getting in the power ranking sheet, like 138 passing yards. It's gross. So, I mean, Cleveland, even after last week's loss, is still kind of getting the defense respect. And then on the flip side, for the Browns, like, how do you really know how this team's going to look without now Ford, who's effectively the backup running back? Kareem Hunt, it's unclear if he is able to carry a full workload. So you're going to have to bring in, the fourth stringer and Pierre Strong to take a bunch of the carries. I'm a little worried, number one, about like loading up on Kareem Hunt in DFS, considering, he didn't go through training camp or anything this year. He just kind of popped out of nowhere, which I don't know what kind of shape that means he's in. Can he handle a full game workload? He didn't do that last week. He scored well on like 12 touches. So I don't know if I trust him. And then you have to ask yourself, well, if it's not like Kareem Hunt in the running game doing it, how is Cleveland really scoring? And they basically have to rely on defense, turnovers, and that sort of approach, which they can do. They're really good, but that's kind of scary to rely on. So for DFS purposes, I think this game is a pass. It's got a 36.5 point total. Just don't need it. Just don't touch it. Stay away. I'm staying away from everything. It's 36 point total. Guys, when a game has a 38 or 37, just don't play it, especially when there are 13 games available. Let's just not play it. So that's what I'm going to do, John. I'm just going to avoid that game. Fuck them. I wanted to play Jackson Smith and Jigba, and I definitely want to play Bobo. But fuck them. But I might play some Bobo. Actually, now that I think about it, I think I'm going to play some Bobo just because the name is cool.
Yeah, you might be able to a little bit. I try to avoid playing against Cleveland.
Let me ask you a question. Last week in your DFS play, when the news came out that DK Metcalf was not going to be playing, do you jump on the domination station or whatever optimizer, do a late swap? And did you swap in Jackson Smith and Jigba, or like, are you doing that actively in the middle of the slate? Or, or are you just kind of like, nah, I'm running the afternoon slate, so I'll just load up on those guys there?
Oh, no. I did I do a swap for the?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to. I think I had.
Well, not just because you had Metcalf. I don't mean just swapping out Metcalf.
You mean
I mean just like an overall, oh my God, I didn't know this guy was starting. I've got a bunch of like this turdly cheap guy who sucks, but that was all that was available. Yeah. So are you doing that aggressively?
I reran everything. It's going to depend on the situation, but in a situation like that, you've got to rerun it. Because first I really liked that game. I thought that was going to be a pretty good game, so I wanted more pieces of it. And yeah, so you have to, when you're going to get a significant bump. I forget how much I had of JNS going into the game, but yeah, it bumped it up at least double what I had initially had. So yeah, I kind of reran it for all the lineups and bumped him in, not just taking out Metcalf, but adding him as well.
That's what I was just trying to understand. Yeah, like, and it's we were already kind of on this before, so I had a lot of Jackson Smith and Jigba in my run. In general, I was able to swap off onto him a little bit, and Bobo was the better one, really, because Bobo was cheaper, and that actually replaced some really actually shittier guys that I had in my lineup that were just there because that's all it was, and I didn't have enough money. So that was a better version of the swap. But I just wanted to know how you do it, or if you're just like, hey, I'm working my afternoon slate now, and I'm just going to focus on that. Or
the one thing I made sure I did was, so like the optimizers they're gonna put in your flex. They're always gonna put like a 4 o'clock game if they can in the flex, which was fine. But when you have a guy like Metcalf in there, what I did was just go in and manually make sure all my Metcalfs were flex if possible, so that I had a little bit more flexibility when the time came if he was going to be out.
I just didn't play any Metcalf. It wasn't like a tough call for me.
I had a little bit. I had between two, depending on like I forget which FanDuel or Draft. I was like 2 to 5% on both.
That's
somewhere
fair.
in there on both sides.
That's fair.
Because you're going to get, because a lot of people weren't going to play him, and then if he did play, it was going to be tougher. Are people going to get him in? So you want that leverage. And I'm able to get him out. There was enough games last week where you're going to easily be able to get him out and jack up the Smith,
pay also, or pay more elsewhere, or get some more studs in your life. That was, so I don't always late swap. Like I don't do it every single week. Most weeks I don't.
It's rare that you have to.
That's what I was going to ask you. Do you find yourself doing that? I think there have been 2 weeks this season where I found a strong reason to late swap. How often do you find yourself late swapping?
It's rare. The only time, actually, like using the optimizer to do to actually swap. But the only time you'll do it is if you're in a situation where you're in a GPP, or even cash games.
That's another story.
You're talking about an individual strategic. Yeah, it's a strategic thing that happens more than because there's usually only 3-4 games in the afternoon, and we're not waiting on a big injury. But last week we kind of knew that we'd be waiting to game time, so that one was kind of known.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was curious. Yes, I've done strategic ones too, where you have this amazing lineup, then you're like, oh wait, I have this last 2-player combo that's a little maybe sketch. Maybe I could swap that around a little bit, and so I'll do that too. But that's different than doing a massive late swap, where again you're probably 80% of the lineups that you're fucking around with aren't even useful anyway because they're long dead before the afternoon games even started. So there's only usually a few games that are even relevant for those kind of swaps. It's not like NBA where kind of you have all these lineups that are still relevant as each game.
A night like tonight in the NBA, you're going to be making swaps all night long.
Yeah, totally different. All right, Chiefs at the Broncos. Did we already do the Chiefs and Broncos?
We did not. No.
Okay, good. Chiefs at the Broncos. Chiefs coming in as 6. Chiefs are 6-1, coming in as 7-point road favorites, taking on a 2-5 Broncos team that kind of sucks. And this one has a total of 46. The Chiefs team total is the highest on the slate. They're over 30 as a team total. And really, John, and they're very expensive. And the only real question for me from a DFS angle is like on the Chiefs side is like, how do I afford these guys? And is it worth playing a team that's again, a surprisingly low 7-point favorite in this matchup? So the first thing I'm going to ask you is, of course, 7 points seems low on the Chiefs. Doesn't seem like the kind of number you'd get against the Broncos, but the Broncos do play the Chiefs well historically, and they've kept these games close somehow. And then, of course, can I play the DFS angles here, or is it too expensive?
Yeah, from a betting standpoint, I kind of like Denver plus the 7. I know it's crazy. Kansas City, until last week, they have. The thing with Kansas City is the defense is where they've been the most impressive. It has not been the offense. It's been the defense. Now, they played last week a Charger team that just gives up a ton of points to the quarterback, and they no different last week. That's the week Mahomes goes off.
Broncos do that too, though.
Yeah, Denver's not good either. Like you said, when it comes to giving points up there, I mean, they're terrible, but it's really running the ball where you can capitalize on Denver's defense. That's what you want to do. You want to kind of pound the ball on them. And so I think we'll see that. And yeah, you can't shy away from a team, a 7-point favorite in a 45.5-point game for DFS. You can't shy away from it. But I do think this game is going to be closer than people think. And more than likely, that means the game goes under. So if Denver's going to stay in this game, it's probably to the under. If this game starts to become a shootout, I don't think they could hang in there. So this game's going to go Denver's way if the game stays low scoring, 20-17 or 17-14 type of a game. That's the only way I think it becomes a Denver game. So I'm kind of leaning to the Denver side. And if I'm going to be on that side, I'm going to be on the under as well.
I'm going to tell you how to make money this week, John. Lock in this money. Just tease the Chiefs down 6.5 points. Chiefs are going to win this game. They're not losing to Denver. If you don't think they're going to, I think you could take it and lay the 7. Denver sucks. Pacheco is going to dominate this game via the run. Mahomes is back. So one of the things you said before, the Chiefs offense hasn't been that good this year, right? Okay. Yes, totally. Mahomes' first good game of the season last week. But Mahomes is not an unknown entity. He's a known entity on a known team. So no matter what the hell they're doing this year, I don't give a shit. Mahomes is not hurt. He's the same guy. The wide receiver play is coming together. They're getting this shit figured out with Reishi and all these other guys. I say you can lock button the fact that the Chiefs are going to win this game. And then how do you take advantage of that? Well, you could take a straight spot on the Chiefs. They want you to play it, and that scares the shit out of me. Anytime they give me too good of a line, I'm a little like, what the hell's going on here? So I think if this was part of a teaser, let's say alongside with maybe the Eagles in that game, just kind of picking these two teams effectively. You don't have to tease it. You could just take the money line on both games. I think that would be an interesting way to attack this week's slate, or throw the Bills in there at home against the Bucs. Do the Bills lose to the Bucs? Fuck no, they don't. Right. So if I put 6.5 on the Bills and another 6.5 on the Chiefs here, I feel really good. I feel greater than 50% that I'm going to cash that play. I know you hate all my teasers and my sleazy teasers and my greasy shit that I like to do, but I'm telling you, I like it. This one stands out to me. I pair it up with the Thursday night game. Take the Bills. Can get a third one in there if you want to roll in. The Dolphins, who are probably going to win against the Patriots, and you've got a nice little greasy teaser setting up for us right before our very eyes, John.
I don't like it.
Just say it. Say you hate it.
I do. Okay. I don't like it.
I know. That's fine. I'll take all the hate. I'll absorb it like a fucking sponge. That's what I do anyway. For professional at it. I'll absorb the hate, and then I'll bounce it back at you with all my ducats from my sleazy teaser win on Sunday night.
I wish you all the best.
Thank you. That's all I want. You don't have to go along with me, but as long as you're rooting for the best for me,
I always do.
Then we can be buds. That's all it takes. Rooting for the best. So yes, I like that. I don't see the Broncos beating the Chiefs. No, I don't see it. You got to be a good defensive team to beat the Chiefs. Like you have to combine an acceptable offense with playing good defense. Unless the Broncos transform into a better defense that they are, they're just not equipped to stop these guys. And the only thing that's going to stop them are the football gods that sometimes send their curse onto teams that should win games. You know, like what we talked about before. Like they send their curse onto you, and all of a sudden the Bills suck against the Patriots. And you're like, how is this happening? All of a sudden the Bills lose to the Giants. Like that happened. How? I don't know. Did that happen? Is that real? Did I imagine that? Is that a real thing that happened, John, or is that a figment of my imagination? Like at this point, I'm smoking a lot of weed lately. I can't even remember.
It's the
That
NFL, man. It's the NFL.
It happened.
None of these teams are good.
It wasn't the hybrid koosh in my mind that did that. That's real.
No,
that
Bills
really
lost to
happened.
the Patriots should have lost to the Giants.
Unbelievable.
It's the NFL.
Yeah. Weird shit happens. It ain't happening here. Give me the Chiefs. They beat the Broncos all day. All right. Another game here where DFS angles there. Just again, it's Pacheco, it's Mahomes, it's Kelsey, and Rashee Rice, I guess, at wide receiver for the Chiefs. And then the Broncos, it's like, don't play these guys. If you think the Broncos are keeping it close, I suspect that Javonte Williams and Courtland Sutton would be the reasons why. But I kind of have some interest in Courtland Sutton, just a little bit. Not Courtland Sutton, in Javonte Williams, just because he actually seems to finally be taking over the lead role. If you look at the usage for the Broncos last week, and Javonte Williams is awesome. So actually, I do have some Javonte interest here, but I normally like to try to target running backs for the teams I think are going to win their games, and I don't see that for the Broncos. But if they do win, it's Javonte. You know how many touchdowns Javonte has on the season?
Do not.
0. It's week 8, and your lead running back doesn't have a touchdown.
Well, he was out a little bit.
It's week 8.
I know.
Score a touchdown. It's time. I think the variance is coming around. Even the worst running back has a touchdown. Come on, Javonte. It's time. All right. So moving on. Ravens at the Cardinals. Ravens are 8.5-point road favorites in this one, with the game that's carrying a 44.5-point total. And John, Lamar Jackson, coming off a spectacular week, was a non-competitive game, put up a huge number. They're looking at another non-competitive game here. Can he put up another huge number? I like Lamar, but traditionally this Ravens team has not been a team that scores a ton of points or fantasy production in games where they're kind of dominating or heavily favored like this one. So I don't know how you want to treat that for DFS. And of course, the 8.5-point number is pretty high for a road team. But, the Cardinals are 1-6, and they seem to get worse each week.
Yeah, Kyler Murray's practicing today, so that they got that. I don't know if he's going to be able to play this weekend, but we'll see what they do there. But, 8. The public is on Baltimore, obviously, and we're seeing that on the Sharp Report as well. I don't have much of a lean on this game. I don't really like it. I think the 8 is actually the right number. I think the total is pretty close to where it needs to be. I like that Baltimore over last week, and I could see that hitting again. So I would lean into the over on this game. I think, look, Arizona disappointed me last week against Seattle. I was hoping for more points in that game. There's no reason for Lamar not to be able to go off, though. Again, he's had some weeks where he came out and basically addressed fantasy players like, hey, I'm trying to win games. I'm not trying to win your fantasy league. But I think this will be a big week for Lamar and their running game. So, yeah, I would have no problems playing Lamar with a big line like this.
Okay. I like Lamar too. And it is a big line and it's a little scary. To think that maybe, but the thing about the Ravens is they don't really have a running back that they can lean heavy on. And so I think that part of it almost negates, but again, Gus Edwards comes in. There is risk here. I much prefer Lamar in a competitive game, but this is how this week is setting up. None of the studs have a competitive game. None of them. So I think it's one of those things where you're just going to have to either suck it up and play Mahomes or Lamar in a non-competitive environment, so let me flip to the previous game though. With your prediction that the Broncos keep it close, let's say, within 7, does that increase your interest in Mahomes saying, hey, if it's a close game, Mahomes is doing his thing?
No, I mean, like I said before, I try to separate the two of those, but even in that case, I would lean towards that game being a lot lower scoring. I think that's why it would happen. So I just don't think, like, if Mahomes goes out and has a big game, I think they cover. So I think if Mahomes is scoring over 30, they're going to cover that game. It's going to be.
So you want to pair up. If you're taking the underdog, you might as well just pair it up with the under.
Yeah, exactly.
Good to know. All right. Last game on this slate, we got the Bengals heading out to San Francisco to take on the 49ers. 49ers will be sans Brock Purdy. It looks like he has a concussion. And so we'll see Samwise the Scared at the helm for the 49ers in this one. They lost a couple of points on the spread there. Not that many. 2 points, which does that seem appropriate to you, Purdy to Samwise?
Yeah, I think they're going to be fine with Darnold in there. So I'm not that concerned. 2 seems about right. It was the one thing I liked about San Francisco coming into the year is that I thought of every team in the league, every good team in the league, they can afford a loss to the quarterback position, and they could absorb that more than just about any other team. Purdy's good. I don't think this isn't about Purdy, this team. This is more about that offense, the way they're able to run the ball, very efficient. And I think he'll be fine. I think the question mark's more on the Cincinnati side, like which Cincinnati teams are you going to get to show up here. So tough to bet against San Francisco coming off that loss.
I just want to, I got your power ranking sheet up. I know you.
Cincinnati's been terrible, so that's why they're going to show up poorly here. This is a hard game to handicap, though.
Cincinnati projecting for 38 rushing. What the hell's going on with that rushing game in Cincinnati? I mean, that is disgusting. 38 rushing yard projection here. So, if you want to play Mixon, good luck with that, right? And not a ton of passing yards, of course, projected for the Bengals as well here at 206. San Francisco, of course, projecting with a ton of rushing yards. Cincinnati is allowing 16 yards above expectation to opposing running backs, 17 yards to opposing wide receivers. So 10 yards to opposing wide receivers. So effectively, Cincinnati is slightly below average against the run and the pass, but worse versus the rush than the pass. That sets up very nicely for the insanely overpriced Christian McCaffrey, who is unplayable. Christian McCaffrey, who else did I say was unplayable when we were breaking this down? Christian McCaffrey is probably the most unplayable in DFS. He's over 10K on FanDuel. Unheard of. Over 10K on FanDuel. He's 99, almost 9,500 on DraftKings, which again, to bring that into perspective, McCaffrey at 9,200, he needs to put up, like, he played every snap against Minnesota. He got a 23. Seemed like a good game. He has one game this season where he put up 51 fantasy points, which was insanity, right? And that was at 9,200, and he was in the nuts that week. Every other week on the season, he has put up below 26 or 27. He's been right there. He's been at 22, 24, 23. But at 9,200, you need 36 just to keep pace on DraftKings with a 200-point score. You need 48 to keep pace with a 250, which is what wins a tournament. So unless you think that McCaffrey, and he could, but he needs a 48 here. So like his chances of getting there, John, it's not high. He'll do that maybe once more this year. Maybe this is the week. I'll look stupid.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. The thing with him is just the floors are so high because of the usage. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, listen, he always has upside. I don't know.
Cash guy.
What's that?
Great cash guy.
Always be. I mean, you're just locked in. He's just not going to give you a bad week. But is he going to give you a tournament winning week? Yeah, highly unlikely at that price point. So I agree with you there.
That's all I'm saying. I do like some of the other spots on really on both teams, but certainly for the 49ers, Ayuk he's priced up a little bit, but if Deebo Samuel's still out, they have Juwan Johnson. Man, I can't remember the name, but they have their WR2 Jennings. Juwan Jennings, I guess. He's been fine as a WR2 if they need him. If Deebo is out, I would also have some mild interest in George Kittle. I think with Sam Darnold in there, I almost have more interest in Kittle. Darnold does tend to focus in on one player, and I could totally see him just throwing to Kittle 7 or 8 times in the same game. So that's kind of interesting. I'm not going to get away from it because Purdy's not in the game. I think what you'll see is a less efficient version of the offense, but that might mean more targets for some of these other guys that don't always get them. So we'll have to see how that goes. Any sort of any interest on your part on the Bengals side? I mean, we just saw the Vikings just put up monster numbers against San Francisco. Maybe that's a thing now.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's very hard. It's difficult to figure out which Cincinnati team is going to show up here. I mean, we started to see some signs that the offense was getting better, but I don't know. This is a tough spot. San Francisco coming off that bad game on Monday night. I wouldn't want to be Cincinnati in this one.
There you go. Angry San Francisco out for justice in this one. I like it. You got a side to pick here, John?
It's tough here because I really want to see what's going on with the quarterback, but
we know he's out.
No, I know, but I want to try to. I gotta figure out what the points are. But I'm going to say if I had to lean early this way, it would be on San Francisco.
See what the price is for Darnold. Yeah, here it is, John. Sam Darnold is 4,300 on DraftKings.
Yeah, no, obviously, yeah, he's going to be cheap, and
I think that's so cheap.
Yeah,
that he will be in play in DFS this week in a real and significant way.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, 4,300. So, you know how I just recounted how Christian McCaffrey needs like a 36 plus to even be viable on the slate, which he can get. He could totally get that, but it needs to be probably around 40. At 4,300 to keep pace with a 250 pointer, you just need 20 fantasy points out of Sam Darnold. And that's for 250. 16 fantasy points keeps you on pace for a 200. So Sam Darnold, the end note of this breakdown, I think is in play for DFS, as crazy as that sounds.
Definitely in play.
Yeah. And it's a tough week where there's not a whole lot of middle ground. So the middling, I think there's a lot of guys who are priced at 6,500 that are more likely to get you 16 than they are to getting you 30. So that really is an interesting endpoint of this. So I still kind of like, I don't know how to bet this one, to be honest with you either. I'm with you. I'm a little bit, if the good Bengals show up, they can win this game. So I don't like any of that. I think I'm going to stay away from it. In terms of, I think actually I would probably lean. I think I'm leaning Cincinnati here. I think there's a version of this game that plays out where the Bengals win it.
It would definitely not shock me.
Yeah.
So it's a tough game to bet.
Yeah, tough one, but a really interesting, and it's just like now occurring to me. I hadn't looked at his salary. That news of San Francisco literally happened. We are recording this on Wednesday afternoon, and that news came out like an hour ago. So I haven't really had time to absorb it. But now that I think about it, at 4,300, Sam Darnold it's going to be somebody that's got to be in my mix this week. So, up is down, left is right. Cats and dogs living together. Who knows what's going to happen this week? Guys, that's going to do it for the Game Plan NFL Week 8 main slate breakdown. Again, thanks to John for being here with us as always. Make sure if you want to check out Sharp, go over. Link is in the description below. Get signed up at Sharp as a VIP over there. Get 20% off. It's like it's $49.99. You get 20% off. $39.99 a month. You get all of the tools. The Sharp Report. You could just tail John's bets if you like, but I love the Sharp Report. The Top Props Proptimizer tool is the best tool for betting props that exists anywhere in the industry, with the sharpest betting model around. So it's been killing it. I believe your top props for NBA last year, just following your article, was up 43 units on the season.
I think almost like 50 units, something like that. It's been up quite a bit, 160 some odd units for the last 2 years. So we'll see how it goes. Yeah,
we're betting 1 unit plays. John goes in the Proptimizer every day, picks out his 3 or 4 favorite of those NBA top props. That thing's up 50 units last year. If you're just tailing that, it's more than worth it. If you're a sports bettor, they will limit your account, and that is a sign of glory. Wait for that to happen, and then you tell us my account got limited, and we will give you a Sharp app swag bag for getting your account limited, for crushing those sports books like never before. So we want to send those out as well. So get onto Sharp, follow the top props, get your account limited, and get some swag. I love it. We will see you guys next time on the Game Plan